up right here. And I want you guys to stay pinned, whoa, on what I'm doing, okay? And let me make sure that I got it showing correctly. And then we'll go through these steps. Okay. So, oops, I did everything upside down. I'm not going to be able to do that. Let me flip this. That's going to drive me crazy. Okay. I'm sorry, you guys. I so prefer to do this stuff in person, but got to work with what you got. Okay. Here we go. Okay. Ta-da! There's my goofy picture. Okay. And I took this picture and I turned it into that. And I did that with all your pictures. So I want to show you briefly here a quick slideshow of what you're creating and how to go at this. So I took your picture. Can everybody hear okay?
Yes.
Yes.
Great. Thank you so much. So I took your picture. You might recognize a couple of these kids. And this is really good. I asked them to, we have a lot of light on the side. And this is what his digital conversion looked like. And then he traced it. And then unfortunately, I actually misplaced his painting one week. So we started a second one. This is Sid did this. He's an 8th grader. And this is done in acrylic paints. But imagine how challenging it was to like do the teeth area and all of the braces and
We don't see the teeth.
So
Yeah,
Yeah, we can just see your picture.
Yeah.
what?
All we see is the picture of you with the hat and the glasses.
Oh my goodness. You know what, you guys? Give me 1 second. I'm so sorry. I need to screen share.
That's what I was going to suggest, that you screen share, and Julia's there too. She knows much more than we old folks do about this.
I know to screen share, but I just forgot. So
Okay.
let me do the screen sharing and start that over. You guys, thank you so much for your patience. I really kind of require patience this year as a teacher. So appreciate that. So you're all in. We are screen sharing officially now. Am I correct? You can all see. Let's start this PowerPoint.
Yes.
Oops. Let's get that guy out of the way. And where is that? And here we go. Okay. So this is probably a flyer you've seen. Am I right? This came out to you guys, kind of announcing the project. And I get this photo and I put it through a program called Seashore. I'm sure a lot of you have digital editing programs on your phone. Julia's got about 6 or 8 of them. She's shown me a lot of these things. So if you don't have it on your computer, some of these processes you can do on your phone. And then you can see the process he underwent. And one of the things that I'm going to encourage all of you to do that's really clear here, I think, is he's starting with the black. And there's something about putting the darkest color in first that really sets the face. You can start to see yourself looking back instead of this crazy puzzle of lines. So here's the full conversion. We are not trying to make a replication, right, of the photograph. The photograph it exists on its own. We're making a creative expression of that photograph. So here you can see, I mentioned that I lost we misplaced this one for a while. So we started another one together, and he's doing different colors on this one from the same picture, but he chose to use different colors. And I will show you, let me see if there's something in the chat. Okay. Can you guys see everything now? I think that's an old message.
Yes.
Okay. And
Yep.
so he's just going at it. He did 2 of these paintings. Here's the full process in a line here. Fabulous job on this. did a great job matching these colors. And I would just really, really, really encourage you to not be in a rush on this project. They come out better the slower you go. And I'll show you that in the demo here in a moment. Here's a couple of high school students that did these last year at my high school. And let me ask you something. On this particular painting here, is there one color of all of these that stands out as a little bit like maybe it's a little too bright, too dark, a little bit off? Is there any color that stands out to your eye on this one? Is it the black, the orange, the tan, the yellow, the green? Are those all seem accurate to you in terms of, how about squint your eyes a little bit? The green, the highlight yellow, the green, the olive. So what I see is this yellow. And I'm sorry I don't have the photo with you, but that value is probably just a little bit too bright. This is probably the highlight, and this is probably darker as a transition color between them. So the values are what are really important in this process. And once you transfer your face onto there, you can decide what kind of background you want. You know, originally he was going to put all this stuff in there, but then he decided to just create a geometric background. My daughter Lily's painting I just showed you, she decided not to integrate any of the background and have it fade to black. So that can be a very powerful, compelling way to go at it. And here's a few other examples of 8th graders. These are all 8th grade portraits. Does anybody know what the term is called when you only use one color and different shades of that one color? Different values of that one color, I should say. Anybody know what that term is called? I hear Julia saying monochromatic. Correct, Julia. A little ringer here in my studio, but so that's called monochromatic. This is opposite colors, but you can choose to follow your portrait, or you can choose, the colors on your portrait. You may choose to do a black and white one. You may choose to do colors that have nothing to do with the colors on your original painting, but they have this relationship right here. And when I say this relationship right here, they match in terms of their value. This is so important. So if you've got a green area that's like this, but you want it to be yellow orange, you've got to get this yellow orange. Do you see what I'm saying? It's the same intensity. So you can switch colors, but they have to be the same degree of lightness or darkness. It's tricky. That's why I gave you a couple sheets of extra paper. You want to definitely test your colors out on a test paper before you go into your final portrait drawing. Here's this chucklehead. So I found this silly picture of myself the other day and thought I'd run with this. I have a lot of detail in there. So I'm going to ask you guys, I'm going to talk to you now about how to go at this detail, okay? And how to set this up. So let me see if I can stop this one. Uh-oh, another technological moment. Stop sharing. Beautiful. See if I can get the massive gallery view here. And I'd like you guys to pin this one. Pin my first Gregory Navarro Pickens. I've tried to pin it, but it says it's pinned already. But I don't think it is, right? So if you can pin this one right here where my hand is waving to you, we'll launch and we'll get going out of that one. Okay. So is everybody with me? Is everybody ready? I got my picture back, but I didn't really like the picture that they used for my portraits. Anyway, I could email you a different picture for me to use. That's, if you want to email me something or pick out one of the other pictures, I'll be happy to switch it for it. Okay. Let's see. Or could I use a file from my phone and print it? You can. The trick is you've got to get it into this format. It's got to be you know, this kind of thing where you've got it divided into the values. It's almost like this is a puzzle. And if you push closely, if you push this, cut this out, these pieces would all slide together like a wooden puzzle. So, what's that? Yep. So, couple things I want to point out, and I'll see if I get as close as I can with my camera here. But you guys all have a pen, pencil, you have an eraser, you have a kneaded eraser. These erasers, I just got it so you'd have a nice eraser. This one, kneaded eraser, I think yours comes in a plastic package, is like this. It's like silly putty, but it's an eraser and it's a wonderful, fun tool to have. But you've also got a piece of this transfer paper and a piece of this good paper. And I think you can identify which piece is a good paper. It's a little thicker, it's nicer. And so I want you to start with that nice sheet of paper. And I want you to take your transfer paper and place it face down. So in other words, you've got this sheet of paper, right? It's got graphite on one side. It's got like pencil lead on one side. And it's got to go dark side down. And tape it onto your paper. I've taped mine like this, like across the top, and wrapped it around the back.
Wait, I'm sorry. So
No problem.
is the good sheet of paper the thick one or the non-thick one?
The good sheet is the thick one.
So we get the thick one, right? And then we tape it to.
Yeah, and you tape this piece of paper. You can see I started already on my transfer, but you want to tape this one on this sheet, and I just tape it around the back, like I put it over here and then flip it around the back so that it doesn't mess up the front of the paper, right? It keeps the front of the paper where it doesn't have any tape on it. And then when I eventually take this off, I'll be able to go like this and just pull it off the back without ripping any of the surface of the paper. Does that make sense?
So we take
Yeah,
the
thank you.
dark paper
Yes,
and then we put it like this
exactly. Face down.
on
Dark-
top of not the good paper, right?
No, the really good paper.
Oh,
This is going on your final, this is your final paper.
I
So
thought
you
you were
want-
supposed to put it face down on like the transfer.
This is the transfer paper. This black stuff,
Oh,
it's
okay.
called transfer paper. I'm sorry, I didn't say that, Brixton, so thank you.
Okay.
I appreciate you guys asking questions because sometimes I leave stuff out and it's really important for me to be clear here with you guys. So yeah, this paper, this dark paper goes down on your best sheet of paper in your package. It's thicker, it's nicer. And then you have to put at least 2 pieces of tape at the top or the paper will slide around. See that? So I put it at the top and I tape it around the back. And your paper may match exactly. I'm not sure. I gave out 9 by 12 inch paper. And so once you get that on there, then you want to take the picture that you're going to use and tape it on. But before we do that, I'm going to help you decide which picture to use. Okay. And so I want to show you here. I gave you 2 color pictures and I gave you a black and white picture. Here is a close-up. I didn't want to embarrass anybody too much. So I cut pieces of pictures out and I wanted to show you the difference between this color, which has many, many colors in it. And then when I did it in a black and white version, it reduced that to a much simpler shape. Can you see that? There's about, gosh, let me put this light here. There's gotta be about 6 or 7 colors in here. But when I go to black and white, it goes to all this dark gray. So all that to say, the simplest picture that you have is your black and white one. So if you're feeling like this is a challenging project, by all means, do the black and white one and it'll be a little easier and you can just use the color as a reference. So I want to show you a couple ways to trace before we get into the final one here in a minute, and just kind of give you a little bit of a review. So first of all, your graphite paper, you can use this over and over again, but as you trace, pieces come off of it. So you'll get little gaps in your line eventually, but you can use this 2 or 3 times in the future. But you can also make your own graphite paper. And I've been doing this since, I was in high school, and it's been a very helpful trick. And the way I do that is to simply scribble on the back of any picture, rub it around a little bit with pencil, and then draw. I'm going to try and get really close to this to show, because some of the more challenging areas you're going to run into are the hair. Okay, so let's see if I can raise this up a little so it's a little closer. So I'm going to look at this section of hair right here, and there is all kinds of stuff going on here in this hair and in this hair. There's about 4 colors, right? There's lots of little hairs in here, but you are not going to want to trace all those. So what I want to continually encourage you to do is squint your eyes. It's a magical trick that artists have been doing for centuries. And it really takes all the detail out of your picture when you look at it. So when you squint your eyes, when I squint my eyes, a lot of that detail goes away. And I just start tracing around the edge of things. And I really just see about 2 different values, right? And I'm not tracing every hair, but I'm trying to just get the shapes in there. And I think you'll see in a second how much I've simplified this. And all of this stuff in here, I'm not going to get involved in all those little details. I'm just going to separate the highlight from the red and the purple. And it transfers and looks like this. Let me see if I can get that light shining on that and get that well. Can you see the lines, how it's transferred? And
So
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm kind of
Sorry?
confused. So, I have my portrait, and I have I got actual transfer paper. So I didn't know that this graphite paper was the transfer paper. So,
Okay.
so I have the cardstock paper that's like a final. So
Perfect.
how do I how do I put it so that the graphite paper right spot so that I can trace?
So the trick to the graphite paper is that you set it up. You're going to set it up. Let me grab my picture. The paper has to be face down. Here's the paper, and I tape it to this sheet face down. That's the key. So if I go back over to this one, I'm set up right now. This would be my final. I've got the transfer paper taped onto the good sheet of paper, and that dark side is facing down. If the dark side is facing up, which I've tragically watched a couple students do, your image is just going to transfer onto the back of your drawing, and you'll have nothing on this side. So make sure that this dark side is facing down onto your paper. And let me show you a couple more things. Last thing I want to show you that you'll have trouble with potentially are the eyes. And so, so here's an eye from a person. I will draw it, but you're going to be so tempted to draw an almond shape with a circle inside of it. And it's super critical that you stick to the shapes that separate the color, and you forget what an eye looks like, because none of your eyes look like eyes anymore. They look like some weird blobs of color, right? And so if you start inventing that, you're going to lose yourself in this drawing. You're going to lose the representation of it. So for example, I'm just going to do this eye right here. And boy, it is tempting to draw the rest of the eyelashes over here and the rest of the eye, but I don't actually see it. It's all one black shape. So I don't invent anything. And so there's a highlight there, and there's other colors around it that I will trace, but I'm not going to invent any color. And you can see that when I finished my eye, it looks nothing like an eye, right? Like it's just a blob, a bunch of lines. So it shouldn't look like an eye unless your eye, in your photo looks like one. So let me stop right there and ask if you guys have any questions before we get to the putting your final portrait on the paper.
I
I have
have
a question.
Janice, go ahead. And we have plenty of time, so we'll take them one at a time. Go ahead, Janice.
Okay. So I was wondering, like, if you messed up, you can't erase it, right?
You
Or-
can a little bit. So I've given you, and you can flip your paper over if you mess up. But I've given you an eraser, and this is graphite. So it is like pencil, so it does erase. And I've given you this fun thing to erase. Like once you put it on there, I like to lighten up all the lines so that when I put the color in, it doesn't look like there's black outlines around all the shapes. So I'm gonna hit the top of this and show you what happens when you use your kneaded eraser. It's a fabulous effect. I guess I'll show it here. It lightens everything without erasing it. And it tends to lighten it without smearing it. If you really want to get busy and take a line out, you get out your vinyl eraser that I included and you grind it out, and it should come out, 85, 90%. But this is great for lightening them. Okay, so we ready to put our portraits on?
I have a
Good.
question.
Yes, question.
So when we put our portraits on, we're supposed to put the portrait over the transfer paper and then like trace it?
Yes. So since I started this one earlier today and I took the picture off, I'm going to start over because it is a nightmare to realign this thing, right? So I don't want to realign it. I'm just going to start over. I'm going to put my transfer paper here. And then I'm going to take my portrait, which I've got right here. And mine's big enough and it happens to fit just right. Like if I take it all the way up to the top, it fits really nicely. And so I'm just going to tape this around the back like this. And you have to have two pieces. Really important to have two pieces up top so this thing doesn't slide around while you're drawing it. And then at the bottom, I take one more piece and I tape it down at the bottom. And what I've done is when I take my piece of tape, I will flip it over. So I have a little tab, like a little tab on one end. So it makes it easy to just pick it up and lift and see how I'm doing. And so you want to be able to set this up. You've got your good paper, your graphite paper. You've got your portrait that you chose. If you're doing the black and white one, it's a little simpler. And you want to tape it in place and make sure that it's not moving. So you have to have those 3 points. And then you're going to be able to need to be able to do this in the process a little bit to lift it up and take a look and be able to put it down and have it line back up. So I would not use the bad paper to get the idea. I would just start with the final. It's really not necessary to practice the tracing just as you go at it, but that's a great question. And so I'm also using my ballpoint pen to trace this because it shows up really easily. So once you've got your picture taped on there, then you're ready to go. Can you guys pin my picture right here where I'm waving to you? Can you guys all see that? Can you see that, Julia?
Yes.
Okay, I'm sorry. So yeah, just pin it because I am technologically challenged with that. So you'll have to do that yourself. So cool. And so I'm going to start. And you can see that I can clearly see where I've traced already, which I have to redo now. But I'm just going to start and I'm going to take my time and go really slow. I'm going to go over all these lines again. And I will
And what are
trace.
we using
Go
to
ahead.
trace?
Question?
What are we using to trace?
Ballpoint pen. It's a little nicer than pencil because it's a harder surface and you want to make sure that you've got this project on a hard surface. It shouldn't be on like, a soft surface, the hard, like a tabletop or a piece of board. And it allows you to, the line will show up better.
Does it matter what color?
The blue that you put.
Doesn't matter what color your pen. Some of my students will trace with red just so they see. And it doesn't matter, the pen, here, I'll even show you, is transferring the graphite. So you're going to end up with lines on here that are pencil that you can adapt a little bit. If you need to erase them or change them a little bit, this is totally flexible. But I use the pen just because it pushes down really hard.
Is there somewhere that you should like start off with first, I guess? Or like can you just start anywhere?
Excellent question. I kind of personally start, I'm right-handed. So I start on the right side and just kind of make my way across. One thing I've noticed that it's really easy to kind of get off track is if you do a shape over here and then jump over here and do a shape. And so I like to complete the shapes as I go across. So you can see this whole eye is filled in. Like all of my shapes before I move on to anything else.
And the only things that we're tracing are like where there's different colors, right? So not all the details, just the.
Everywhere you see a separation between the colors, you want to trace so that you ultimately end up getting things that look like this, right? Shapes inside of shapes, inside of shapes. You end up getting things that look kind of like this, right?
Yeah.
And then it's almost, you're making a paint by number, basically.
Yeah.
So another tricky part is where things get bumpy, right? You've got some areas like this is really bumpy in here. And it's like, what do I trace? There's no line. It's just like somebody spilled pepper on it, right? So I'm going to figure out where that line is in between those bumps. So I got a little bit of green there and gray, and I'm not going to go crazy trying to literally get every little bump. I'm just going to translate it in something that's in the neighborhood. So when those come out, they come out as clean, clear shapes rather than lots of little bumpy stuff. Does anybody have any other questions? I'm sure that I've not covered everything. Anybody have any challenges?
I'm so confused on where we're supposed to be tracing or like writing.
Okay, so let me show you what I've got so far. And it is a little tricky. I've had students that have started these 2 or 3 or 4 times over again until they got the idea, but I don't think you need to. Let me show you this final drawing here in just a second, and I'll show you the idea here. So you can see I'm tracing this, and this is what's coming out, but I'm literally tracing every shape. There's a shape. So I trace, see if I can get a little closer. There's a shape, so I'm tracing that. Oops, let me get my light in a better spot. There we go. So can you see the way that I'm tracing those shapes?
Yeah,
There's-
so like any shape that you're seeing by the eye, you're tracing it.
Excellent. Any shape where you see a separation of the color, you want to put a line between it. Some of you guys may have things like this. You need something?
Is
Some
the
guys may have things like this where you have a little bit of yellow on the edge or a little bit of green. Don't worry about that. If it's just a tiny bit of a whisper of a color on the edge or something, you don't have to get that tiny detail in there. But you want to get the major shapes. And does this make sense what I'm pointing to right here? All the shapes. I'm not drawing an eyeball in there. I'm just drawing that shape where Does that make sense? Look at that goofy picture. Oh my goodness. That looks funny full screen. Okay, anybody else have any questions? You doing okay?
Yeah. Is it okay if I start?
Yeah, go ahead and start.
Okay.
This is more of a personal question, but I have
Yeah.
hair that's like covering part of my face because the wind was blowing, and it's like really thin strands. What
Yeah.
should I do about that? Like, should I trace it, or like it's like barely visible on the image?
No, I'm going to look at your picture. I think I have yours right here, Janice. So let me
Okay.
take a. That was Janice, right?
Yes.
Okay. Let me take a look at your picture and see if I can see what you're talking about.
Okay.
Real quick. I won't show it, but I'm just gonna for a reference for me. All right.
Oh, and I'm using the one that is not the purple or black and white. So, yeah.
Okay. That's fine. You know, black and white's a little simpler.
The yellow and blue.
Yeah, the yellow and blue, because I don't know color, but
Okay. So
Yeah,
I
thank you
see
for
what
explaining.
you're talking about, Janice. And I think the challenge for you is to show those lines. Like, I
okay.
think it's going to look very unnatural if you start to undo that a little bit.
Mhm.
It's going to be very challenging to invent something that goes with the picture. And so,
I just looked at my tracing and it's kind of like it's not really out. Like it's kind of faded and not all of the stuff that I've traced.
it didn't come out.
Well, so the pen that came in our kit, the blue
Yeah.
one,
Yes.
like the ink wasn't really coming off very much, so I couldn't
Okay.
read what I was tracing over. So I got a different ballpoint pen, and I'm going over it still, and it's like not really through the graphite. Like there's
You
some
need
of
to
it,
press hard.
You know, you shouldn't need to even press hard. If you have a dark surface, I'm just showing Janice's hair here. This is the challenge she was talking about. Janice, I won't show you a portrait, but you know, that stuff going across her forehead is natural part of her hair and part of the photo. So I'd say you got to put a few of those striations in there, you know, kind of give yourself a guide of where those go. And once it's done, it'll look, if you can stay true to the photograph, it looks more natural. So when you say yours isn't working, isn't showing up, I'm not really understanding that because that's how dark mine is. Like it comes out black. So
Yeah, mine isn't showing up either.
are you
I don't
sure you have, I'll bet you have the paper flipped upside down.
No, it's down, and the black part of the graphite paper is on top of the like good paper.
Uh-huh.
Some of it is on, but not all of it.
So it is kind of working.
Yeah, it's kind of working.
Okay, so I think Gina's got the right idea. Press a little bit harder. Because I'm pushing with the pen and this is what I'm getting. And it's a really dark,
Yeah,
obvious line.
mine's not that dark.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be. I'm over pressing so that you guys can see it on here. As long as you can see the line and understand where you're headed, then that's as dark as it needs to be. But I kind of like to push down pretty hard to make sure that I'm absolutely getting that filled in. That there's no question when I lift this up, that line is going to be there. Okay, so if it's not working, I'd say double check your hard surface. The pens I just bought a case of pens. I don't know how long they've been sitting around, so they may need a little shaking to get working, but it doesn't matter what pen you use. You can really use any ballpoint pen. What's that? It does, so you can track. Julia's saying the ink doesn't need to work, which actually it really doesn't because it works as a pressing tool, but you need to be able to see where you've where you've traced already. So it does need to be drawing. Did you guys figure that out? Those of you who weren't getting it to transfer, is it transferring now?
Yeah, I pressed it. I started pressing a little bit harder, and now I can still see it, but it's not that dark.
It's not as dark as that?
No.
Huh. Are you working on a hard surface?
Yeah.
So I really got to tell you, I just don't understand.
Yeah,
You know?
mine is the same. So you need to press pretty hard to get it out.
Yeah, maybe press pretty hard. I mean, I guess I'm pressing hard. I'm pressing harder than I would if I were just writing with a
Like
pen.
so far, this is mine.
Oh, okay. That shows up great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
And
would show you what the computer that I'm working.
great. And so the best thing to do would be to figure out the right pressure and feel comfortable that your lines and confident that they're transferring, but check it once and then don't check it again. Like once you're sure, like I'm positive these are working, I've got the paper flipped the right way, they're transferring. So I just don't want to keep opening this in case it starts to shift. So once I've got it started and done like this, it's really easy to just say, okay, I'm not going to lift that up again. I'm just going to finish the drawing. And then I'll take a look. My pen's not working great either. There we go. Are you guys, is it working for everybody? I'd love to hear any comments, or you can share in the chat if you guys, if it's successful, if it's happening.
I think
Samantha,
mine's working quite well.
great. Were you able to get yours going, Samantha? Is it working? Was that who just showed me that?
Yeah, now mine is working. It's just showing up really lightly, but at least now it's showing up at all.
Excellent. That's looking great, Brixton. Thank you for sharing too, by the way. I'd love to see any of you, want to share. Alex doesn't have a black piece of paper. Oh dear. Alex, so
One side of it's black.
yeah, it should just be one side black. Do you have that? Like it's transfer paper, so it's, no. Okay, so it's possible, Alex, that in the assembly of 70 kits, one just did, I knew there might be human error showing up here, right? You might not have gotten a piece in there. So what I could encourage you to do is make a sheet of it. And I would just take a separate sheet of paper, maybe your scrap paper that I included. And my apologies, dude. I really am sorry if you didn't get one. But just take a pencil and just start filling up the back. I don't want to do it on top of this because I'm going to transfer. But just start filling up the back behind your portrait. Crisscross, go this way, rub it around a little bit with a tissue, and then it'll transfer exactly the same. In fact, to be honest with you, I don't use this transfer paper. I like to use the pencil and make my own because it erases more effectively. This stuff doesn't 100% erase. I even have a spray called spray transfer paper, and I spray it on and it turns paper into transfer paper. Okay. Keep going here. Gina, how are you doing?
I didn't figure out how to pin your screen, unfortunately, so I can't see what you're doing. So I'm just faking it.
Oh no. Right up here, you can't see that?
Mm-mm. That when I hit view, I have speaker view or gallery view or full screen. So that pin thing,
Oh.
I don't know how to do
You
it.
need to
So
go
you
to
have to
his
hover
video and then
above his
click the
video.
pin button.
Yeah.
Okay,
Like
go
go
ahead.
to the
Gage.
square
Can
and
Hold on.
click the pin.
hold on, just one
Have
person.
one
speak.
person tell her, okay?
Yes.
Janice, do you know how to do it?
So you have to go over your his video, and there'll be either like a pin button or like a pin option.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, there it is. Okay. Is it gonna work?
And
I
then
still-
you need to stop clicking
Can,
gallery view. You need to make it presentation.
Can I ask a quick question?
Of course.
So I can see that this meeting is being recorded. So is this going to be posted somewhere for us to like go back and watch over again to see how to do it again? Or
Gina, are we able to post this somewhere so that the students could have access to it?
and like rewatch the video to see how it's done.
Sure. I think you are, oh, that's looking great, Joy. Yeah, we did record it because there's a couple people who were not able to be here today. So, but of course, I would always encourage you, if you feel like coming down to the studio, I'd be happy to show you. Happy to help you with it. But yes, we will make the video available. And so you'll be able to go back through the beginning part where we're talking about process and stuff, if you like. Is there something you have a question on that's you're not clear about at the moment?
No, I'm just wondering.
Yeah, no, it's a good, I'm glad you asked that because we are recording it and it's good to know that you have access to that. I'm assuming everybody is just killing it right now. So that means it's time to put music on. Jaden, did you find your picture?
No, I haven't found my picture yet.
Okay, so I'm gonna make a note and I will email you a picture, okay, buddy? Can
All
you,
right, thank you.
did you get my, can you shoot me an email so I have yours?
All right, let me find you really quickly.
Cool, and I put my email in the chat there. If anybody wants to email me, of course, you can come down and visit me, but email me and I'd be happy to, correspond with you about the project. I love doing this stuff, so it's not an inconvenience at all. I love seeing what you guys create.
Excuse me.
Yes.
I was just wondering, I feel like I've gotten most of the parts. Like I feel like I've gotten most of the light parts or different changes of color that I can see.
Okay,
I didn't want to do the
everything.
back. Huh?
You've traced all the pieces that you can see at the moment.
Yeah. And so I was just wondering if you could look at it and see if there's anything else that you think I should trace. Because there's
So let me
okay.
encourage you first, don't remove the photo, right? You have to be able to put the photo back down in place. Did you take it off?
No.
It's okay if you did. Okay, good. It's really okay if you did, but we want to make sure you got all the lines transferred before we take the picture off. So who am I talking to right now?
This is Mackenzie.
Mackenzie, is that you?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I'm going to pin you so that I
Okay.
can see your thing a little bigger.
So I think you can see it there.
Awesome. And it looks horrible now. That's how you know you did it right. You know what I mean? It just looks like a jumble of craziness. So that's wonderful. Nice job. So Mackenzie, do you have markers or colored pencils or both?
I have colored pencils with me right now, but I have markers close by so I can grab them.
Cool. So so this ends at 12:30. Next, somebody asked the question, what do we do next week? I will show you a little bit about how to apply the color right now. Even on the partial one that I've started here, so that some of you can start that if you'd like. Next week is really about me answering questions and we can color together, but you guys are all on the on the verge of spring break. And so if you really want to work on this over spring break, I'd really encourage you to do that. And maybe even get it started. If not, you're welcome to show up with it all done and transferred and ready to color. That was the intention, was sort of the second session would be coloring, but I know a bunch of you are ready to go. Are you all transferred? Did you do the outside too? Sorry, I'm talking to Julia here. So what I would encourage you to do is do the black first and So there's a couple things philosophically speaking that are best ways to approach this. And I'm gonna, you can see mine here. Let me grab my portrait so I don't have to pull it off the front. Okay. So there's me. Ta-da. And I'm gonna start with the black. And I can tell, even looking at this right now, I didn't finish this shape. There's a black shape right in here. So I didn't quite finish transferring this. So I would have made sure I scrutinized it first before I lifted the picture off.
Are we
But
going to do our face, right?
yes, but it brings up an interesting question of what do you do in the background? And you can do anything you want. The fact is you could leave it solid, make it a color. You could even take your transfer paper and transfer other images in there if you like. It's been a very unique year. It's been kind of an awful year in many ways. And yet we've had to kind of entertain ourselves. And so maybe there's something you want to put in there that references this time period. Maybe you want to have a couple of little coronaviruses floating around in the background. Maybe you want to just have a sunset. It's really up to you. Black looks beautiful too, just filling it with a color.
Does mine look like it's right?
Let me get the gallery view going here and see if I can. Oh, can I pin yours real quick?
Yeah, sure.
Add pin. Wow, it really does. The only thing I'm seeing is in this side here, like where your hair comes down from your hat.
Mhm.
There's a
Yeah.
line missing.
Yeah, I know. I'm not finished yet.
Oh, okay.
I have the thing
So,
flipped over so I can just go like that.
Oh, good. You still have it attached.
Yeah. I know.
Brixton, that looks perfect.
Thanks.
I mean, it really, truly looks perfect. And I would suggest once you get it all done, get after it with this thing, with your, with this kneaded eraser, and lighten these lines a little bit. So I'm going to do that. And this is typically how much I would lighten them. I'm going to take them back to almost non-visible. And that doesn't even seem like, maybe that's good, but maybe I want them even lighter.
Will
I'm
it
going to
smudge
rip in
it?
my line colors.
The kneaded
What's
eraser
that?
the paper, will it smudge it so that it goes all over the place?
This nice part about this graphite, it doesn't smear as much as pencil. It smears a little bit because it is graphite, but this thing doesn't smudge at all. Like when you use the kneaded eraser, it really doesn't smear the graphite, which is nice. And then if you want it even lighter, you can grind it a little bit with this guy. And it'll give you really light lines, but you can still see them, for the coloration. So, I would say make them as light as you feel comfortable seeing them, so that I can clearly see those, even they're much lighter than these other ones, right? They're much lighter than these dark lines, but I can still clearly see that. And it's going to help your color and everything kind of unify a little better rather than having an outline. Jude, Samantha, you guys have your hands up. Or do you have a question?
Yeah.
I have. Oh, go ahead.
Okay,
Samantha, you
on mine.
first, okay?
Okay.
I have a question. So, are we supposed to trace our background, like not our face and our hair?
That's up to you. A lot of kids don't. Like I've got a lot of clutter in my background, right? I don't know if I like this, but I kind of like the color. So I may just continue these colors and take the yellow all the way down. Or you may choose some things that you like. You can rip a picture out of a magazine and transfer it with the transfer paper very easily. So maybe there's some scenes, or maybe you want to put your backyard in there. Maybe it's just a whole bunch of colors smeared around. I really encourage you to be creative. Really encourage you to be creative with that back. You bet. Jude, do you have a question, buddy?
Yeah, I have this glare on the top of my hair, and it's like has these tiny things that kind of make it look how it does, but it's
Uh-huh.
also extremely hard to get them. So
So can I ask you to show it, and I'll pin yours for a second, and we can take a look at it.
sure, here, hold on.
Okay, I'm going to unpin you, Brixton. And thank you guys for being willing to share your work. I know it's awkward. Okay, so I see that. And it's these highlights that you're concerned about on the very top, right?
Yeah, it's like
Okay, so
there's a lot
there's
of
a
like
million hairs in there.
yellow. Yeah, no, it's this line right, here. Like it has a bunch of tiny dots that are impossible to get, but those tiny dots kind of give it its color.
So here's the thing that you can consider also is that we're making a roadmap for your drawing. And when you're doing your actual drawing and you get to that area, you know, you can look at the drawing and do a little finesse, you know, put the dots in there if that's what's helping with that transition of color. Maybe even blend it instead of dots. But as long as you know where it's located when you're doing your coloring, you should be able to sort of handle that area. But yeah, it's tricky when it's dotty or the hair, you know. I usually end up squinting my eyes at everything, and then the detail goes away. And you can kind of see, like when you held that up, I could see in your hair, it looked like 2 values, but I'll bet there's 5. You know, but when it's blurry on internet, it looks like 2 values. So that's what you want to kind of try and go for, is the overall look of it. Cool. Who else has a question? Anybody else?
So in my picture, part of my hair is black, and part of my background is black. So I don't know really where they meet.
Okay. And can I see your picture? Can we pin it?
I like I said, this computer doesn't.
Or do you have a camera? Can you show it?
Um,
who am I speaking to here? I'm sorry, I can't.
Jude Moore.
Okay.
See, if I try to turn on my camera, it's just black.
Huh. Yeah, it just shows black, huh?
Yeah.
So here's what I'd suggest, Jude. Like, and some of those pictures, like the one of my daughter, the black just became part of the composition. And if you have a photo that where the shading on your face merges into some of the black in the background, then you kind of have to roll with the black being integrated.
Oh,
Do you know what I mean?
Okay. Yeah, so that'll just be a part of it, right?
It'll be part of it. I have had some students draw the edge of their face, right? Like to say, okay, I'm going to separate it from the background, just because they want to do a totally different background. But you know, it does look cool to integrate it into the background, the black. So when you color this thing too, I'm using Prismacolors. These are the nicest color pencils you can get. Jude, your hand is still up. Did you still have a question, buddy?
No, sorry, I'm a forgetful person. I
Okay,
forget to do that.
I'm looking at the other Jude. There you go. Cool. So, so these are beautiful and they blend well and they're really rich pigment and color. And you know, you get them in boxes that look like this. I'm sure you guys have all seen these. Personally, I think every human being should own a box of these because they're so far superior to the other colored pencils. And I just think they're worth it. So, but when I draw with these, I draw really dark. And I'm not drawing, see, where it's really light like that. I want to make sure I'm pushing down and getting a nice solid, and I'm pushing all of the little white tooth of the paper. I'm going to try and make sure it's all completely buried in colored pencil. And here we go. See which part is mine. Yeah, that's all merged together. So I'm tempted to draw in my eyeglasses, but they don't really show up over here, right? So I'm just gonna make all that one line. How are you doing, Julia? My only student in the room. Okay. Is there something you can think of, Julia, that I need to cover? Because I know you're a little familiar with this. Anything I haven't, are you having challenges with anything? No. Okay, cool. This is my classroom with Julia. Wave. Do you guys, anybody else have any questions or comments? You having challenges with this? Is it going okay? If you do, go ahead.
So I have to do my t-shirt and I don't
Yeah.
really want to.
Okay.
So is there a way I can just not include my t-shirt or no?
You know, I'm gonna look at your picture again.
Okay.
And you cannot include the lettering on your t-shirt,
Mm-hmm.
right? That might be a little tricky, but I think you have to include, you know, your shirt, right?
Okay.
And that piece of hair down in the front here,
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to show you, on the bottom left corner, I think
Yeah.
that's really important.
Okay. I'm just gonna like close my eyes or something
Yeah.
while
And
doing it.
you know, if you squint your eyes,
Or
squint your eyes at that little
Mhm.
section, and the light areas show up really obviously,
Okay.
you know, and then when
Thank
you're
you.
drawing, you can throw in some of the extra stuff.
Okay.
Cool. Anybody else have any questions about that? So if you do happen to get into this and start drawing on it, by all means, please bring it. Even if you finish it and you don't feel like you need the next class, please bring it and share it with us, and share your challenges or your, you know, your struggles or your successes. You guys probably see there's a lot of murals around town that do this, right? They stylize, they put things through a filter, and then it's a little easier to paint the mural when you have shapes defined like this.
This is just like a quick thought that I had. But what's the
Yes.
name of the guy that draws with like blobs of paint, I guess? Or like he pours paint in like circles and squares, and then when you like back away really far, it's like an image.
He pours the paint, you say?
Not pours, but it's like I don't know how to describe it, but it's kind of like a ripple or like I don't know. He's
He
like,
uses he splits it. He makes a grid on his art, and then like he looks at it and then sees like what simple shapes can I put here to make the whole thing look eventually like it's like that.
Okay, so I think you're talking about my literal favorite artist in the entire world. His name is Chuck Close.
Yes.
yes,
Is it portrait
yes,
art?
yeah, him. Uh-huh.
Okay, so this
He's awesome.
project, normally when I'm in class and we have a few weeks to do this, we study Chuck Close extensively for this project because he is
Wow.
has used photographs his entire career.
Mhm.
And I'm gonna share a little bit about Chuck since we got a few minutes left, because he is truly one of the most amazing human beings alive, in my opinion. He's regarded as
Unit
one
on
of the,
him.
do you know what in particular is kind of amazing about this guy? Like, do you know that he is a quadriplegic artist?
Yeah.
Disabled?
So here's, I don't know why it's not getting on that. There we go. So this portrait you see here on the left is one he did in college. He went to Yale University and he did this photorealism, and highly realistic. And these portraits are like 9 feet tall, right? If he were standing next to it, he'd only come up to about his ear. And so they're gigantic, and they have every pore, every whisker, everything in there. And it's done to a high realism. And then sadly, this gentleman had an artery that exploded in his spine and he became paralyzed. And he had spent his whole career making portraits like these beautiful, highly rendered, highly realistic images. And so when he became paralyzed, and you can see all of these over here to the right, these are all gigantic images. You can see the size of them with people there. There he is in the studio next to his own artwork. And then he couldn't accomplish these anymore. And so everybody in the world kind of wrote him off as being too disabled to create artwork. And yet every one of these paintings is done with a grid. And he just continued doing the grid process. And so here's what he's doing now. And this is what he's able to accomplish from his wheelchair. And if you look at this closely, or look at it not so closely, it all merges together into a very realistic image. But this is all that his hands can accomplish. He has a glove that he has to click his brushes into, and he has a wheelchair, and he can't really manipulate his fingers very well. So he kind of pushes the paint on with his hand. But to me, I'm going to go ahead and say that I think he became a much better artist because he became paralyzed. I think these works are just extraordinarily unique, and they're so much more interesting than a photorealistic work. I don't know that you guys feel the same way, but I just love his work and that he was able to overcome that.